My discussions, even as a child, were full of inquiry beyond my age and often an enigma to adults. I always felt like there was more that they were not telling me, and no matter how many times I asked why or how, their comments never satiated my curiosity. It left me feeling a bit empty. Evidently, I was destined to explore reality with an insatiable curiosity. The first occurrence of paranormal experiences happened when I was just 6 years old during the fall of 1963, shortly before President Kennedy was assassinated. November 22nd has a special significance later in my life as well. I was looking out the front window of our 2-story yellow wood-framed house on Harrison Street, the main drag of our tiny town. Once deemed small town USA, it had one main street a couple of miles long with 5 stoplights in the center of town. The first light on the north side of town was about a quarter-mile away. The town was surrounded by farmland, but most of the folks in town were auto workers or employees of companies that contracted with the big 3 in our area, only a few hundred miles south of Detroit. Alexandria's claim to fame was twofold. We had the first natural gas well in the state and the first trolley line that ran from Anderson to Alexandria in 1897. Our sidewalk days featured soupy sales when I was in 1st or 2nd grade, but he didn't appreciate my pie in the face to honor him in the best way I knew how. His TV show featured a pie in the face every week as part of his routine. How was I to know he wouldn't appreciate my thoughtfulness? 2 major railroads crossed southeast of the downtown area, with the north-south line less than 100 feet out our back door. I used to lie in bed at night, listening to the train while being lulled to sleep by the clickety-clack of the railroad cars as they passed the house. Our backyard was kind of like a trapezoid because the railroad was at an angle to the street. We had a few fruit trees and a grape arbor in the southwest corner, with a swing set and sandbox in the center of the yard, and a single-car garage bordering the north, which matched the color of the house. To the north of the house was a large trapezoidal yard with several more fruit trees, an apricot, peach, Granny Smith, and dwarf pear. Harrison and Tyler Streets, along with the railroad tracks, formed the boundary. We had a front porch that extended out from where I was standing. My parents' bedroom was partially above the porch and provided the ceiling of protection against the elements during the bad weather. The front door led into a small entryway with stairs to the left forming a short wall. There was a small closet on the landing, created by the turn of the stairs, reversing their direction and ascending to the 2nd floor. To the right of the door was a large, thick curtain that covered a previously used entrance to an apartment where my great-aunt lived. Just a few yards inside the door was our living room, which had a television set in the opposite corner from the stairway, a couch, and a coffee table with a couple of chairs on opposite ends. I was standing on the stairway landing just after dark one evening, waiting for my father to come home from running errands. The window looked out over our front porch and out into the street, which was about 10 meters away. I had bent over and put my elbows on the windowsill, which I'd done often, musing over the cars going by on the street. I had been there for just a few minutes when, "Hey, you!" Suddenly, out of nowhere, I heard a thunderous voice yell, "Hey, you!" It sounded as though the voice had unimaginable power, rumbling through my head with authority and omnipotence. I don't remember being frightened by it, though, although most likely I was at least a little intimidated. Knowing that my mother was sitting at the bottom of the stairs, I felt sure she must have heard the voice, too. I spun around and shouted, Mom, did you hear that voice?" She stared at me with a puzzled look and said, "No," pausing for a moment, and then, "Must have been a peeping Tom."